In the deep silence of space, aboard the mighty flagship Eternal Sovereign, Captain Ryan Keller stood at the center of the bridge. Around him, officers moved about their stations with quiet efficiency, checking instruments and monitoring data. Streams. The ship was on a routine patrol near the edge of the Galactic Empire's vast territory, an area rarely visited by anyone except passing traders or explorers brave enough to venture into the unknown. Everything seemed ordinary. But that was about to change. Suddenly, alarms erupted across the bridge, sharp and jarring. Red lights flashed as every head turned toward Lieutenant Emily Dawson, who sat at her console near the front of the room. Her fingers danced over the controls, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. "Captain," she said, her voice steady, but tinged with confusion, "we've detected something unusual on long-range scanners." Ryan walked over to her station, his boots clicking softly against the metal floor. He leaned forward, studying the screen filled with strange patterns and readings. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than static, a glitch in the system, perhaps. But then he saw it. A massive object drifting silently through space. It wasn't moving erratically like debris or tumbling aimlessly like an asteroid. No, this thing had purpose. Its shape was unmistakably artificial. "What is it?" Ryan asked, his tone firm but calm. Emily hesitated before answering. She zoomed in on the image displayed on her screen. The object was enormous, far larger than any standard warship in the Empire's fleet. Its design was sleek and angular, unlike anything they had ever encountered. Strange, glowing blue markings ran along its surface, pulsing faintly as if alive. Whatever it was, it didn't belong to any known alien species within the Empires. "Database? I don't know, sir," Emily admitted. "It doesn't match any registered ships or designs we have on file. And those energy signatures? They're off the charts." Ryan straightened up and glanced around the bridge. His crew watched him intently, waiting for orders. This was uncharted territory, not just literally, but figuratively. Encounters with unknown vessels were rare, and when they did happen, they usually ended one of two ways, either peacefully or violently. Neither outcome could be predicted yet. "Bring us closer," Ryan commanded, "but keep shields raised and weapons ready. Not take any chances." The helmsman nodded and adjusted the controls, guiding the Eternal Sovereign toward the mysterious object. As they approached, the tension on the bridge grew thicker. Everyone held their breath, unsure of what they might find. Was it a rogue vessel, a new threat from beyond their borders, or something else entirely? When they were within visual range, the main view screen flickered to life, displaying the object in stunning detail. Gasps rippled through the crew as they took in the sight. The ship, or whatever it was breathtaking. Its surface shimmered under the distant light of a nearby star, reflecting hues of silver and gold. The glowing blue lines pulsed rhythmically, almost hypnotically, looked less like a machine and more like a living organism, something born rather than built. But before anyone could fully process what they were looking at, another shockwave hit them. Transmission came through, loud and clear, filling the bridge with a voice speaking in perfect English and ancient human language thought to have vanished centuries ago. "This is Commander Alex Carter of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet," the voice announced. "We come in peace." For a moment, there was complete silence. Then chaos broke out. Your officers shouted questions, theories flew back and forth, and some simply stared at the screen in disbelief. Humans. How could this be possible? According to history books, humanity had gone extinct thousands of years earlier during the collapse of Earth. Their planet had been ravaged by war, climate disasters, and resource depletion until nothing remained but ruins and ashes. Or so everyone believed. Lieutenant Dawson scrambled to verify the authenticity of the message. She cross-referenced the signal with archived languages and dialects, confirming that it matched old Earth records exactly. There was no doubt about. If the beings aboard that ship claimed to be human, Captain Keller raised a hand to silence the commotion. "Open a channel," he ordered. Turning to face the view screen, he addressed the unknown entity. "This is Captain Ryan Keller of the Galactic Empire. Identify yourself and state your intentions." A few seconds passed before the reply came. On the screen, a figure appeared, a man dressed in a uniform adorned with insignias unfamiliar to the crew. His features were distinctly humanoid, though slightly different from those of the Empire's citizens. Brought a half-citizens, he had short brown hair, piercing green eyes, and a confident posture. Behind him, others moved about, visible through large windows. That revealed the interior of their ship. "I am Commander Alex Carter," the man repeated. "I said, we mean no harm. We are explorers, seeking contact with other civilizations. Our scans indicate you are part of a galactic society. We wish to learn more about you and share our own story." Words hung in the air, heavy with implications. If these people truly were humans, then everything the Empire thought it knew about history would need to be rewritten. But skepticism lingered. Could this be some elaborate trick? An advanced alien race pretending to be human to deceive them? Ryan exchanged glances. With his senior officers, they needed answers. But how far should they go to get them? For now, caution ruled. "Stand by," he told Carter. "We will relay your message to our leadership and respond shortly." As the connection closed, the bridge fell into uneasy silence. Once again, the crew exchanged worried looks, unsure of what to think. Humanity's reappearance, if that's what this really was, could mean many things. Hope, danger, opportunity, threat. Only time would tell which of these possibilities would prove true. Meanwhile, news of the encounter spread quickly throughout the Empire. Reports reached Emperor Marcus Drake, whose advisors convened an emergency meeting to discuss the situation. Some argued that this could be a chance to forge alliances with a lost civilization. Others feared the worst, warning that humanity might harbor secrets capable of toppling the Empire's dominance. Back on the Eternal Sovereign, Captain Keller prepared for whatever came next. He knew that decisions made in the coming hours could alter the course of history for better or worse. Little did he realize just how profound those changes would be, and so, midst uncertainty and wonder, the stage was set for humanity's dramatic return to the galaxy. Whether friend or foe, ally or adversary, one thing was certain: the Galactic Empire would never be the same again. News of the mysterious human warship spread like wildfire through the corridors of power in the Galactic Empire. Within hours, Emperor Marcus Drake had summoned his inner circle to an emergency council meeting aboard the Imperial Palace Station. Celestial Spire. The room buzzed with tension as advisors, generals, and scholars filed in, each carrying their own theories about what this discovery meant for the Empire's future. At the center of the table sat Marcus himself, a tall, imposing man with sharp features and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through anyone who dared meet his gaze. General Nathan Brooks was the first to speak. A grizzled veteran of countless battles, he wasted no time getting to the point. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice firm but tinged with urgency, "we cannot afford to take this lightly. If these humans are truly what they claim to be, then they represent an unknown variable, one we can't afford to ignore. Their technology is clearly advanced. Even their ship's energy signature surpasses anything we've seen before." Paused, leaning forward slightly, as if to emphasize his next words. "What if they're not here for peace? What if this is just a ruse? We should strike now while we still hold the advantage." His suggestion sparked murmurs of agreement from some members of the council, particularly those with military backgrounds. But not everyone shared his perspective. Ambassador Laura Hayes, known for her diplomatic expertise, shook her head firmly. "With respect, General," she said, her tone calm but resolute. "Attacking without provocation would only escalate tensions unnecessarily. These humans have made it clear they wish to communicate peacefully. Why not hear them out?" Laura stood up, smoothing her robes as she addressed the Emperor directly. This could be an opportunity unlike any other to learn from a civilization. Thought lost to time. Imagine the knowledge they might possess, the advancements they could share. If handled correctly, this could strengthen the Empire rather than weaken it. Her argument drew nods of approval from several advisors, especially Dr. Samuel Grant, the Empire's leading xenohistorian. Soft-spoken man with thinning gray hair and glasses perched on his nose. Samuel had spent decades studying ancient civilizations. He flipped open a datapad and adjusted his glasses as he spoke. History tells us much about humanity, Samuel explained. They were once a highly adaptable species, capable of surviving under extreme conditions. Their ingenuity allowed them to thrive despite limited resources. And let's not forget, they were pioneers in early space exploration, long before most alien races even left their home planets. Samuel paused, glancing around the room to ensure everyone was listening. But there's something else worth considering. Humanity disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Some believe they were destroyed by internal conflict. Others think natural disasters played a role. Yet here they are now, alive and seemingly prosperous. How did they survive? Did they receive help from another advanced species? Or did they evolve beyond our understanding? His questions hung in the air, unanswered but impossible to ignore. The implications were staggering. If humanity had indeed risen again, then perhaps their return signaled more than just a random encounter. It might hint at deeper connections between the galaxy's past and present. Emperor Drake listened intently, his expression unreadable. He trusted his advisors, but ultimately the decision rested with him alone. After a moment of silence, he leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers together. "We must tread carefully," he said finally, his voice commanding attention. "Both approaches have merit. Diplomacy offers hope for cooperation, while caution ensures our safety. Therefore, I propose we pursue both paths, but discreetly." Turning to Laura, he continued, "Ambassador Hayes, you will lead a delegation to meet with these humans. Your mission is simple: establish trust, gather information, and assess their true intentions. Make it clear that we value their presence, but remain vigilant." Laura nodded, accepting the responsibility with quiet determination. She knew the task ahead would be challenging, but she also believed it was necessary. If handled poorly, the situation could spiral into disaster. But if managed well, it might usher in a new era of unity and progress. Then Drake turned to General Brooks, his tone hardening slightly. "General, prepare a contingency plan. Assemble a fleet nearby, ready to intervene if negotiations fail, or if the humans prove hostile. However, do not act rashly. Any aggressive move must come from me and only after all other options are exhausted." Brooks clenched his jaw but gave a curt nod. Though he disagreed with relying too heavily on diplomacy, he understood the Emperor's reasoning. For now he would comply, but privately. He vowed to keep a close eye on events. As the meeting concluded, whispers rippled through the council chamber. No one doubted the gravity of the situation. Humanity's reappearance raised countless questions and posed equally numerous risks. Was this a chance to rewrite history, or the beginning of a new conflict? Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Sovereign, Captain Ryan Keller awaited further instructions. When word arrived of the Emperor's decision, he immediately began preparing. For the arrival of Ambassador Hayes and her team, the bridge crew worked tirelessly, ensuring every system was functioning perfectly. They knew that whatever happened next, the outcome would ripple across the galaxy. Hours later, a sleek shuttle docked with the flagship carrying Ambassador Hayes and her small entourage. Among them was Daniel Lee, a young but brilliant linguistics expert tasked with assisting in communication efforts. Also present were 2 elite security officers, trained to handle any potential threats. As they stepped onto the bridge, Ryan greeted them warmly, but professionally. "Ambassador Hayes," he said, extending a hand. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Sovereign. We're honored to assist you in this critical mission." Laura smiled politely, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of nervousness. "Thank you, Captain. Let's hope we can turn this unexpected encounter into something positive for both our peoples." With introductions complete, the group gathered around a holographic display showing images of the human warship. Its glowing markings pulsed softly, almost tauntingly, as if daring them to approach. Emily Dawson provided a brief update on their observations so far, emphasizing the ship's extraordinary capabilities. "They've shielded their systems incredibly well," Emily explained. "Our scans reveal very little beyond surface details. But based on their initial transmission, they seem eager to talk." Ambassador Hayes nodded thoughtfully. Then let's not keep him waiting. Under her guidance, a formal message was sent to the human vessel, requesting permission to send a shuttle for face-to-face discussions. To everyone's relief, Commander Alex Carter responded promptly, granting approval. Preparations began immediately. With Laura and her team boarding a smaller craft designed for diplomatic missions as the shuttle departed, leaving the safety of the Eternal Sovereign behind, a mixture of excitement and apprehension filled the air. None of them knew exactly what to expect when they reached the human ship. Would they find allies, enemies, or something entirely different? Back on the flagship, Ryan watched the shuttle disappear into the void of space. Couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the brink of something monumental, something that would forever change the course of galactic history. Whatever happened next. One thing was certain: humanity's return had already begun reshaping the universe, and deep within the shadows of the council chamber, General Brooks silently plotted his next move, determined to protect the Empire Vin, if it meant bending the rules. The shuttle carrying Ambassador Laura Hayes and her team drifted silently through the cold emptiness of space, its engines humming softly as it approached the towering human warship. The vessel loomed larger with every passing second, its angular design and glowing blue markings casting an eerie yet mesmerizing light against the blackness of the void. Despite the calm demeanor she projected to her companions, Laura couldn't help but feel a knot of unease tightening in her stomach. This was uncharted territory, not just physically but diplomatically. Everything depended on how this meeting unfolded. As they drew closer, the warship's massive docking bay opened like the mouth of some ancient beast, revealing rows of sleek fighters and bustling activity inside. The shuttle slipped into the bay without resistance, guided by unseen forces that seemed almost sentient. When it finally came to rest on the metallic floor, Laura took a deep breath and stood up, smoothing her robes once more. She glanced at Daniel Lee, who gave her a reassuring nod, and then at the two security officers, their hands resting lightly on the holsters of their weapons. Together, they stepped out onto the foreign deck. They were greeted immediately by a group of humans, led by Commander Alex Carter himself. He looked exactly as he had on the view screen, tall, confident, and radiating authority. His uniform was crisp, adorned with insignias that hinted at his rank and experience. Behind him stood several others, each dressed similarly but with subtle differences in their attire that suggested varying roles within their crew. They all shared one thing in common: their features bore a striking resemblance to those of the Empire's citizens, though there were slight variations in skin tone, eye color, and facial structure. "Welcome aboard the Odyssey," Carter said, his voice warm but measured. "I am Commander Alex Carter. On behalf of my crew, I thank you for coming." Laura stepped forward, extending her hand in greeting. "Ambassador Laura Hayes, representing the Galactic Empire. It is remarkable to meet you." Carter shook her hand firmly, his grip strong, but not overpowering. "Likewise, we've waited a long time for this moment." The comment hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Laura chose not to dwell on it, instead focusing on the task at hand. "Commander, may I introduce my team? This is Daniel Lee, our linguistics expert. These are Officers Karen Miller and John Riley, who will ensure everyone's safety during our discussions." Carter nodded politely to each of them before gesturing toward his own group. "This is Lieutenant Sarah Bennett, my tactical officer, and Dr. Michael Torres, our chief scientist. They'll be assisting me during our talks." With introductions complete, Carter motioned for them to follow him deeper into the ship. As they walked, Laura and her team took in their surroundings. The interior of the Odyssey was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Its walls gleamed with a metallic sheen, interspersed with panels of glowing blue material that pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. The corridors were wide and immaculately clean, filled with the quiet hum of machinery and the occasional sound of footsteps echoing from distant sections of the ship. "What powers your vessel?" Daniel asked curiously, breaking the silence. "Your energy signatures are unlike anything we've encountered." Carter smiled faintly, clearly aware of the question's significance. "A combination of technologies," he replied vaguely. "Some developed over centuries, others discovered." through collaboration with other species. The mention of other species caught Laura's attention. Collaboration? You mean humanity has been in contact with alien civilizations? We have, Carter confirmed. Though perhaps not in the way you're imagining. Our history is complicated, Ambassador. Much has changed since Earth fell. His words sent a shiver down Laura's spine. Earth's fall, or rather, its destruction was a pivotal event in galactic history, often cited as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and environmental neglect. To hear Carter speak so casually about it was unsettling, almost surreal. They arrived at what appeared to be a conference room, a spacious chamber, dominated by a large circular table surrounded by chairs. Holographic displays hovered above the surface, displaying maps, charts, and streams of data. Carter invited them to sit, and once everyone was settled, he began explaining their side of the story. For thousands of years, humanity believed itself alone in the universe, Carter said, leaning back in his chair. Earth was our cradle, but also our cage, and it became clear that staying there would lead to our extinction. We left. Not all of us, of course. Only a fraction managed to escape before the end. We traveled far beyond known space, seeking refuge among the stars. Paused, letting his words sink in. We found a new home, a distant star system, where we rebuilt our civilization. Over time, we rediscovered old knowledge and forged new alliances. We learned to adapt, to survive, and most importantly, to thrive. And now, after millennia of isolation, we've returned to see what remains of the galaxy we once called home. Laura listened intently, her mind racing with questions. Why now? After all this time, why reveal yourselves? Carter's expression grew somber, because we believe the galaxy stands at a crossroads. The Empire has grown vast and powerful, but power comes with responsibility. From what we've observed, not all corners of your society reflect the values you claim to uphold. Corruption, inequality, exploitation, these are wounds that fester beneath the surface. Humanity wishes to offer a different path, one rooted in cooperation and mutual respect. His words struck a chord, though Laura wasn't sure whether to trust them fully. There was sincerity in his tone, but also a hint of warning, an implicit challenge to the Empire's way of life. And what of your technology? She asked cautiously. You mentioned collaborating with other species. Does that include sharing advancements? Carter exchanged a glance with Dr. Torres before answering. Our technology is a reflection of our journey. Some of it we created ourselves. So other parts were gifts or trade agreements with allies. But make no mistake, Ambassador's strength lies not in our machines, but in our ability to adapt. Humanity has always been defined by resilience, ingenuity, and determination. The statement carried weight, leaving Laura and her team to ponder its implications. If humanity truly possessed such capabilities, their reappearance could shift the balance of power in ways no one had anticipated. For hours, discussions continued, covering topics ranging from cultural exchange to potential partnerships. Carter remained open and forthcoming, answering questions with clarity and precision. Yet Laura couldn't shake the feeling that he was holding something back, that beneath his polished exterior lay secrets waiting to be uncovered. Eventually, the meeting concluded, and Carter escorted them back to the docking bay. As they prepared to board the shuttle, Laura turned to him one last time. "Commander," she said, her voice steady but laced with curiosity, "what do you hope to achieve here?" Truly. Carter met her gaze, his green eyes reflecting a mixture of resolve and uncertainty. To remind the galaxy that humanity is still alive, and that we intend to shape its future, not merely exist within it. With that, he offered a final salute. Watching as the shuttle departed and disappeared into the endless expanse of space, back aboard the Eternal Sovereign. Laura reported everything to Captain Ryan Keller and his senior staff. The information she brought back was both fascinating and troubling. Humanity's return posed opportunities for growth and innovation, but also risks that could destabilize the Empire if mishandled. As the bridge crew processed the details, Emily Dawson voiced, "What many were thinking? They're hiding something. Something big." Ryan nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "Perhaps, but whatever it is, we'll need to tread carefully." One wrong move, and this whole situation could spiral out of control? Unbeknownst to them, General Nathan Brooks had already begun putting his own plans into motion. Convinced that humanity represented a grave threat, he quietly mobilized a fleet to shadow the Odyssey. In his mind, diplomacy was a luxury the Empire couldn't afford, not when the stakes were this high, and so, as the stars twinkled silently outside the windows of both ships, the stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of trust, ambition, and survival. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Humanity's return had ignited a chain reaction that would reverberate across the galaxy for generations to come. Ambassador Laura Hayes spent the hours after returning from the Odyssey locked in deep thought. The meeting with Commander Alex Carter had been enlightening, but it left her with more questions than answers. Humanity's story was compelling survival. Against all odds, rebuilding far from Earth, forging alliances with unknown species, but something about it didn't sit right. Carter's confidence bordered on arrogance, and his vague responses to certain questions hinted at secrets he wasn't ready to share. What exactly were those secrets? How might they affect the Empire? Back aboard the Eternal Sovereign, Captain Ryan Keller called an emergency briefing for Laura to relay everything she'd learned. Officers gathered around the holographic display table, their faces tense, as Laura recounted the details of her encounter. She described the ship's advanced technology, the glowing blue markings that seemed almost alive, the calm demeanor of Carter and his crew. But when she mentioned humanity's claim of collaborating with other alien species, murmurs rippled through the room. Other species? Lieutenant Emily Dawson repeated, her brow furrowed. What kind of species? Do we know them? Laura shook her head. They didn't specify. All Carter said was that these collaborations helped humanity develop their current technology. He implied that some of it wasn't even created by humans themselves. This revelation sent a ripple of unease through the group. If humanity had allies or worse, mentors who possessed knowledge beyond the Empire's reach, then their reappearance could signal far more than just a cultural exchange. It might mean the emergence of a new power player on the galactic stage. Captain. Keller rubbed his temples, visibly troubled. So, what you're saying is, we don't know if they're here as friends or something else entirely. Exactly, Laura replied. They've claimed peaceful intentions, but we can't ignore the possibility that this is a calculated move. Their technology alone makes them a potential threat. At that moment, Dr. Samuel Grant entered the bridge, carrying a datapad filled with fresh research. The Xena historian had been working tirelessly since the initial discovery of the human warship, digging into ancient records and piecing together fragments of humanity's past. His arrival brought a glimmer of hope, perhaps dread, depending on how one interpreted his findings. I think I've uncovered something important, Samuel began, his voice tinged with urgency. He placed the datapad on the table and activated its display. Images of faded manuscripts, star charts, and sketches of humanoid figures appeared before them. Humanity's disappearance has always been shrouded in mystery, Samuel explained. But there are legends, myths, really about a secret alliance between humans and another advanced species. This species supposedly guided humanity during its darkest days, teaching them skills and technologies far beyond their time. Room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. If these myths were true, then humanity's survival wasn't purely accidental. They hadn't simply fled Earth and rebuilt on their own. Why someone or something had helped them? It's a question. Who? Could this be why their technology is so advanced? Emily asked, breaking the silence. If they had help from another species, maybe that explains the energy signatures we detected. It's possible, Samuel admitted. But here's the catch. According to the legends, this species disappeared shortly after aiding humanity. Some say they were wiped out in a cosmic event. Others believe they retreated to another dimension. Either way, no one has seen or heard from them since. Ryan frowned. You're telling us that humanity might have ties to an extinct superspecies one, capable of reshaping civilizations? Samuel nodded grimly. That's the theory. If it's true, then then humanity's return could mean more than just reconnecting with a lost branch of the galactic family tree. It could mean the revival of a partnership that changed the course of history once before. As the discussion continued, General Nathan Brooks received updates from his spies embedded within the diplomatic team. Though officially sidelined from decision-making, Brooks had taken matters into his own hands, ordering reconnaissance drones to monitor the Odyssey closely. The data pouring in confirmed what everyone feared. Humanity's warship was equipped with capabilities far beyond anything the Empire possessed. One particular report caught Brooks' attention. It detailed a shield system unlike any ever recorded, a lattice of energy fields that could deflect even the most powerful weapons. Worse still, the propulsion system allowed the ship to achieve speeds previously thought impossible without relying on hyperspace conduits. These innovations weren't just leaps ahead, they were revolutions. Brooks clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. To him, the evidence was clear. Humanity posed an existential threat to the Empire. Their superior technology made them unpredictable, uncontrollable. Diplomacy was a waste of time, a dangerous gamble that could leave the Empire vulnerable. No action was needed. Swift, decisive action. Without consulting Emperor Marcus Drake, Brooks ordered a fleet of warships to assemble near the edge of the system. Officially, they were conducting routine exercises. Unofficially, they were preparing for war. Meanwhile, aboard the Odyssey, Commander Alex Carter watched the Empire's movements with growing suspicion. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Bennett, approached him with a grim expression. "Sir, our sensors are picking up unusual activity. A large number of ships are gathering nearby. They're masking their signals, but I'm confident they're Imperial vessels." Carter sighed, rubbing his temples. He'd hoped diplomacy would prevail, but deep down, he knew better. Humanity's return had stirred fear among the Empire's leaders, and fear often led to rash decisions. Still, he couldn't let paranoia dictate his next move. Not yet. "Keep monitoring them," Carter instructed. "Prepare countermeasures, just in case. But do not engage unless provoked. We came here to build bridges, not burn them." Sarah hesitated, clearly uneasy. "With respect, sir, if they attack, we may not have a choice." "You'll follow my orders," Carter snapped, his tone sharp but controlled. "We've survived worse than this. Trust me." Unbeknownst to either, side tensions were reaching a boiling point. Back on the Eternal Sovereign, Ambassador Hayes grew increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress. Despite multiple attempts to arrange follow-up meetings with Carter, communication had stalled. The humans were becoming distant, guarded. Was it because of something she'd said? Or did they sense the Empire's growing unease? Her concerns deepened when Emily intercepted a transmission between the Odyssey and an unknown source. The message was heavily encrypted, but fragments of it suggested coordination with external forces. Could this be proof of humanity's mysterious allies? Or was it something else entirely? Emily relayed the information to Ryan, who immediately summoned Laura and Samuel to the bridge. "We need to figure out what's going on," Ryan said, his voice firm. "Das. If humanity is planning something, we can't afford to be caught off guard." Samuel studied the decrypted fragments intently, his eyes narrowing behind his glasses. "It's hard to say for sure, but based on the language patterns, I'd wager this isn't coming from humans alone. There's a complexity here and elegance that suggests involvement from another species." Laura's heart sank. If Samuel was right, then humanity's reappearance was only part of a larger puzzle. Perhaps their allies weren't extinct after all. Perhaps they were watching, waiting, biding their time. Before anyone could act on this revelation, disaster struck. Without warning, alarms blared across the bridge of the Eternal Sovereign. A swarm of Imperial fighters surged toward the Odyssey, their weapons charged and ready to fire. General Brooks had launched a preemptive strike. "What the hell is happening?" Ryan shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. Emily frantically scanned the situation. "It's General Brooks' fleet. They're attacking the Odyssey." Laura felt her stomach drop. Everything they'd worked for, every effort to establish trust, was unraveling before her eyes. On the view screen, the Odyssey glowed brighter, as its shields activated, effortlessly deflecting the incoming barrage. The Empire's finest weapons bounced harmlessly off its surface. leaving no visible damage. Carter's voice crackled over the comms. "Ambassador Hayes, explain this betrayal. You assured us of peaceful negotiations." Laura grabbed the microphone, her hands trembling. "Commander, please listen." "This wasn't authorized. We didn't know we trusted you," Carter interrupted, his tone icy. "And now your empire has declared war." On the bridge of the Eternal Sovereign, despair gave way to panic. The Odyssey retaliated, firing beams of concentrated energy that sliced through Imperial ships like paper. Within minutes, Brooks' fleet was in disarray, its vessels crippled or destroyed. The humans had barely broken a sweat. Ryan turned to Laura, his face pale. "We need to stop this before it escalates further, but stopping it wouldn't be easy." Brooks' reckless actions had shattered any chance of diplomacy. Humanity's patience was wearing thin, and their true strength remained a mystery. The battle raged on. One thing became painfully clear. The galaxy would never be the same again. And somewhere in the shadows, the Empire's fate hung precariously in the balance. The aftermath of General Nathan Brooks' attack left the galaxy reeling. The Odyssey had effortlessly repelled the Imperial fleet, its advanced technology rendering the Empire's most powerful weapons useless. Ships that once symbolized the might of the Galactic Empire now drifted lifelessly in space, their crews either dead or captured. On the bridge of the Eternal Sovereign, Captain Ryan Keller stared at the devastation on the view screen, his face etched with disbelief and anger. "What have you done?" Ryan muttered under his breath as he turned to Lieutenant Emily Dawson. "Get me Emperor Drake. Now." Emily nodded quickly, her fingers flying over the console. The line connected almost instantly, and Emperor Marcus Drake appeared on the screen, his expression stern but visibly shaken. Word of the battle had already reached him, thanks to frantic reports from surviving officers in Brooks' fleet. "Captain." "Keller," Drake began, his voice heavy with authority, "explain this catastrophe." Ryan took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "Your Majesty, General Brooks launched an unauthorized strike against the human warship. Despite our efforts to establish peaceful negotiations, he acted without consulting you or anyone else for that matter." Drake's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. "Where is Brooks now?" "He retreated after the initial assault," Ryan replied. "But I fear the damage is done. Commander Carter has severed all communication with us. He's furious, and rightfully so." The Emperor leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples as if trying to stave off a headache. "This changes everything. If humanity retaliates, it could mean the end of the Empire as we know it." Laura Hayes stepped forward, her face pale but determined. "Your Majesty, there may still be a chance to salvage this situation. Let me return to the Odyssey. Try to reason with Commander Carter. Apologize on behalf of the Empire. Make him see that Brooks' actions do not reflect our true intentions." Drake hesitated, weighing the risks. Trusting Laura meant risking further escalation if her mission failed. But doing nothing would leave them completely at humanity's mercy. Finally, he gave a reluctant nod. "Very well, Ambassador. You have my permission to proceed, but tread carefully. The fate of billions rests on your shoulders." Aboard the Odyssey, Commander Alex Carter paced the length of the bridge, his fists clenched tightly. The betrayal by the Empire burned. Like acid in his veins, humanity had come in peace, offering a hand of friendship, only to be met with hostility. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Bennett, watched him nervously, unsure of what to say, "Sir." She ventured cautiously. "What are your orders? Do we pursue them? Finish what they started?" Carter stopped pacing and turned to face her, his green eyes blazing with fury. "No," he said firmly. "Not yet. First we wait, see if they send someone to grovel. If they don't, then we'll decide our next move." As if on cue, a transmission came through. It was Laura Hayes, her face appearing on the main view screen. Her expression was one of genuine remorse, though Carter wasn't ready to forgive so easily. "Ambassador," he said coldly, "you have some nerve contacting me after what just happened." "I understand your anger, Commander," Laura replied, her voice steady despite the tension. "What General Brooks did was wrong, a violation of everything we stand for." Believe me when I say that his actions do not represent the will of the Empire? Carter crossed his arms, studying her intently. And yet here we are. Your fleet attacked us without provocation. How can I trust you now? You can't, Laura admitted. Not fully, but I'm asking for a chance to prove that not all of us are like Brooks. We want peace, Commander. True peace. Not domination, not conquest, just coexistence. For a long moment, Carter didn't respond, glanced at Sarah, who shrugged slightly, leaving the decision up to him. Finally, he sighed and nodded. Fine, you can come aboard again, but bring no more than 2 others with you. And make no mistake, if this is a trick, you won't live to regret it. Back on the Eternal Sovereign, Laura prepared for her second trip to the Odyssey. This time, she brought Daniel Lee and Karen Miller, one of the security officers. Ryan insisted on accompanying them, but Laura refused. If things go south, the Empire will need you here, she told him. Besides, I think having fewer people might help ease tensions. When they arrived at the Odyssey, Carter greeted them with thinly veiled suspicion. Gone was the warmth from their first meeting. In its place was a steely resolve that made it clear how close they were to outright war. You're fortunate. I agreed to hear you out, Carter said as he led them to the conference room. Don't waste my time. Laura nodded, taking a seat at the table. I won't, Commander. Let me start by apologizing, not just for General Brooks' actions, but for failing to prevent them. You should have seen this coming. Carter raised an eyebrow. Apologies are meaningless unless followed by action. What do you propose we do now? Laura hesitated, choosing her words carefully. We offer reparations. Surrender control of several key star systems near your territory as a gesture of goodwill. In exchange, we ask that you share some of your knowledge and technology with us. Together, we can create a stronger, more unified galaxy. Carter exchanged a glance with Dr. Michael Torres, who sat quietly observing the discussion. Reparations sound promising, Carter said slowly, but sharing technology? That depends on whether we can trust you to use it wisely.
We
Swear on the honor of the Empire, Laura insisted. This isn't about power. It's about survival. For both our peoples. Carter considered her words for a long moment before finally nodding.
All right.
Here's what I propose. We'll accept your offer of territorial concessions, but only temporarily. During that time, we'll establish joint research facilities where our scientists can collaborate. If things go smoothly, we'll consider a permanent alliance. But if you break your word, he let the threat hang unfinished in the air, Laura breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, Commander. You won't regret this. I'd better not, Carter replied curtly. Because if I do, the consequences will be severe. Meanwhile, General Brooks fumed aboard his flagship, watching the events unfold from afar. His plan had backfired spectacularly, making the Empire look weak and incompetent. Worse still, Emperor Drake had publicly condemned his actions, stripping him of command and placing him under investigation for insubordination. Brooks seethed with rage. Pacing the confines of his quarters, he refused to accept defeat, not while humanity still posed a threat. If the Empire wouldn't act decisively, then he would take matters into his own hands, using encrypted channels. Brooks reached out to loyalists within the military, rallying support for a secret operation. His goal was simple: launch a covert strike against humanity's supply lines, crippling their ability to sustain prolonged conflict. If successful, it would force them to withdraw, leaving the Empire intact. But secrecy was key. One misstep, and the entire plan would unravel. Back on the Odyssey, Carter addressed his crew, explaining the terms of the tentative agreement with the Empire. While many welcomed the prospect of peace, others remained skeptical. This feels too easy, Sarah said during a private briefing. They attacked us once. What's stopping them from doing it again? They won't, Carter assured her. Not if they value their survival. And besides, we've got the upper hand. They know it, and we know it. For now, diplomacy gives us breathing room to assess the situation. Sarah nodded reluctantly, though her unease lingered. Something about the Empire's sudden willingness to cooperate felt off. Little did either side realize, however, that the seeds of mistrust had already been sown. Brooks' covert operation loomed on the horizon, threatening to undo everything Laura and Carter had worked for. And somewhere in the shadows, unknown forces continued to watch. Waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves, the galaxy teetered on the edge of chaos, held together by fragile threads of hope and fear. Only time would tell whether those threads would hold or snap entirely. Days passed since the fragile truce between humanity and the Galactic Empire had been struck. Aboard the Odyssey, Commander Alex Carter oversaw the establishment of joint research facilities in designated star systems near their territory. Scientists from both sides worked side by side, sharing knowledge cautiously, but with growing curiosity. For the first time in millennia, humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy, and neither was the Empire. Yet beneath the surface of cooperation, tensions simmered. General Nathan Brooks's covert operation loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. His loyalists within the military had begun assembling a small, stealthy fleet designed to strike at humanity's supply lines without leaving traces that could be traced back to the Empire. Brooks believed that cutting off resources would force humanity to retreat, giving the Empire time to regroup and prepare for a larger-scale confrontation. Unbeknownst to him, however, his plans were not as secret as he thought. Lieutenant Emily Dawson aboard the Eternal Sovereign had intercepted encrypted communications hinting at Brooks' intentions. Though fragmented, the messages painted a clear picture. Sabotage was imminent. Emily immediately brought the evidence to Captain Ryan Keller. "Sir," she said urgently as she entered the bridge, "we've got a serious problem. Brooks is planning something big. If we don't stop him, this whole peace deal could collapse." Ryan frowned, his mind racing. "How reliable is this intel?" "Solid," Emily replied. "I cross-referenced the data with known patterns of Brooks' past operations. This isn't guesswork, it's fact." Ryan clenched his fists, torn between loyalty to the chain of command and the need to protect the fragile alliance. "I can't let this happen. But if we expose Brooks directly, it could make things worse. We'll look complicit, even though we aren't." Emily nodded grimly. "Then we act quietly. Leak the information to someone who can handle it discreetly, someone close enough to the humans to warn them." Ryan considered her suggestion for a moment before making his decision. "Get me Ambassador Hayes. She's our best shot at stopping this without starting another war." Laura Hayes received the message from Ryan while overseeing one of the new research stations. The facility buzzed with activity, scientists exchanging ideas and running experiments under shared supervision. Humanity's technology fascinated the Empire's researchers, while the Empire's historical archives intrigued human scholars. Progress was slow, but steady, a testament to what collaboration could achieve. When Ryan's transmission came through, Laura excused herself and stepped into a private chamber. Her expression darkened as she listened to his explanation of Brooks' plot. By the time he finished, her hands were trembling slightly. "This could ruin everything," she whispered. "If Carter finds out about this, he'll see it as proof that we can't be trusted." "He's right to think that," Ryan admitted. "But you're the only one who can prevent it," warned Carter discreetly. "Tell him we uncovered the plan independently and are taking steps to stop it. Make sure he knows this isn't coming from the Empire as a whole. Let's Brooks acting alone." Laura hesitated, weighing the risks. Trust between humanity and the Empire was already paper-thin. Revealing Brooks' scheme might save the peace agreement, but it could also deepen suspicions. Still, doing nothing wasn't an option. "I'll do it," she said finally, "but I can't guarantee how Carter will react." Aboard the Odyssey, Carter was reviewing progress reports when Laura's request for an urgent meeting arrived. Reluctantly, he agreed to see her, ordering Sarah Bennett and Dr. Michael Torres to join him in case the discussion turned hostile. When Laura entered the conference room, her face was pale but resolute. She wasted no time getting to the point. "Commander, I have critical information. Someone within the Empire is planning to sabotage your supply lines. It's General Brooks. He's operating outside official channels, and his goal is to destabilize you." Carter's eyes narrowed, his voice sharp. "And why should I believe you? How do I know this isn't a trap?" "I wouldn't blame you for doubting me," Laura replied calmly. "But this comes from Captain Keller. He intercepted Brooks' communications and sent me here to warn you. We want to stop him not because we owe you anything, but because his actions endanger everyone." Carter exchanged glances with Sarah and Michael. Both looked uneasy, unsure whether to trust Laura's warning. Finally, Carter leaned back in. His chair, his expression thoughtful. "Let's assume you're telling the truth. What do you expect us to do about it?" "Prepare defenses," Laura urged, "and document everything. Brooks succeeds, use the evidence to hold the Empire accountable. But if you stop him, it proves we're serious about making this work." Carter nodded slowly. "Fine, we'll take precautions. But mark my words, if this turns out to be a setup, there will be consequences." Brooks' fleet moved under the cover of darkness, slipping past Imperial patrols undetected. Their target was a key relay station used by humanity to transport supplies across vast distances. Destroying it would cripple their logistics network, forcing them to divert resources to repair efforts or abandon certain regions entirely as they approached the station. However, they found themselves ambushed. The Odyssey and several smaller human vessels emerged from hyperspace, surrounding the saboteurs before they could launch their attack. Carter's voice crackled over the comms, cold and unforgiving. "General Brooks," he said, addressing the lead ship, "your little rebellion ends here. Stand down, or we'll open fire." Brooks snarled, realizing too late that his plan had failed. Humanity had anticipated his move, likely tipped off by traitors within the Empire. "You won't get away with this," he spat. "The Empire will rise against you." "No," Carter replied. "They'll rise against you for betraying them. Surrender now, or face the consequences." With no other options, Brooks reluctantly ordered his ships to power down. Moments later, boarding parties from the Odyssey seized control of the fleet, capturing Brooks and his loyalists. Evidence of their conspiracy was collected and transmitted to Emperor Drake, assuring accountability. In the aftermath, Emperor Marcus Drake addressed the galaxy in a public broadcast. He condemned Brooks' actions, emphasizing that such betrayal would not be tolerated. Brooks was stripped of rank and sentenced to life imprisonment, serving as a stark reminder of the cost of insubordination. For humanity and the Empire, the incident served as a turning point. Trust remained fragile, but both sides recognized the importance of moving forward together. Joint projects expanded, focusing not just on technology but also cultural exchange programs aimed at fostering understanding. Commander Carter reflected on the journey during a quiet moment aboard the Odyssey. Humanity's return had sparked fear and uncertainty, but it had also opened doors to possibilities once thought impossible. As he gazed out at the stars, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Back on the Eternal Sovereign, Laura Hayes stood beside Captain Ryan Keller, watching as the first trade convoys traveled safely between human and Imperial territories. "We did it," Ryan said softly. "Against all odds, we made it work." Laura smiled faintly. "For now, but the real test lies ahead. Can we keep this peace intact, or will old fears tear us apart again? Only time would tell."